Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Lisi. My pronouns are she and her. I'm a tester, and today I'm going to share with you a set of tactics that help me transform teams to own holistic testing and quality. It's a toolbox of approaches to find the sweet spot where people start moving towards better directions together. Feel free to try them out in your own context. Now, a few things to say up front. This is based on my personal experience working hands-on in teams. And what I tried is really inspired by countless people, way more than I can attribute. But please know I'm building on other people's work here. These things did not only originate with me. It's a snapshot in time. I still continue learning. I'm on my journey as well. The tactics I'm going to share, they are fallible. Not all of them work in all contexts. We have to try things out. But these definitely help get my teams into better places. These tactics are also not there for winning over others. It's about winning as a team. And I did not transform those teams on my own. I do believe I had a part in it, but there's a lot of factors to consider. And in the end, the teams transformed themselves. Here's what I'm going to talk about today. You can see it as a journey. Let's first talk about the goal to reach, holistic testing and quality. Then we can see where the team right now is and what we need to consider to make a first step. Then I'm going to present a bunch of tactics to choose from. And finally, to wrap this up, let's talk about that very next step you can take and see where it leads you from here. But let's start with our goal, holistic testing and quality. Now, the main point of this talk is not really much about the testing or quality part, but about the holistic one. What do I mean by holistic? I see it as all the time, from the start to the end, throughout the delivery workflow, from idea to production. I see it as everywhere, on all kinds of systems, in all kinds of situations, everything, all parts of the product, units, integrations, but also ideation or documentation, everything. And by everyone, the whole team. That applies to testing and learning valuable information about the status quo so we can make better informed decisions, but it also applies to building quality in and making things better than they were. I've already shared my experience is based on my teams, and I've been on a lot of teams so far. What I've realized here and what I'm going to share with you is basically the summing up of what I've seen, especially in my last 3 teams. There was a team that was super close and then really imploded as trust eroded. There was another team who started and formed from nearly nothing and who really took ownership seriously. And then there's my current team that when I joined was rather a group of isolated individuals. Big kudos to them. They made the farthest journey so far in the shortest time. I'm very proud of these people. And this is also the team that made me realize all these tactics that I'm going to share with you. Now, all of those teams, they were product development teams in product companies, owning a product or a big chunk of it. They were cross-functional, and I was always embedded as a testing and quality expert, hands-on on the team. So that's the context I'm working in and I'm speaking from. When working on all those teams, I've seen the same problems over and over again. Like poor delivery, quality problems with what we're delivering, lots of unexpected behavior that is detected quite late, or building things that nobody uses, and often people outside the team talking quite negatively about the team and the outcome we produce. Limited communication within the team, especially across roles. People, who've never experienced quite effective communication. I've seen expert role thinking that can be observed as talking about sub-teams in this team, like the front-end team or the design team, or you as a tester, quality expert. I've seen lots of handovers be done because often people started out as soloists in the team, basically. So solo work was the default, and they considered done as I did my part and not as everything is done together. Poor system understanding. You know one bit, but you don't know about the others. So it's really prone to build errors in. It's hard to have conversations about architecture or design. So lots of regression issues are popping up. lack of safety and trust. I've seen a lot of people not daring to speak up or address conflict. Lots of defensive behavior to be seen, especially if blaming was also on, and people were quick to look for scapegoats or not wanting to share the work in progress because of fear of blame. Hence, not many people dare to even move one bit. A lot of inaction going on, because if you move and you make a mistake, you would get blamed, right? So let's rather not do anything. Lack of transparency, gatekeeping, knowledge silos, and many, many more. So not knowing how to release or how to run a service locally or how to call an API, not knowing what's going on anyway, right? Throwing things over the wall, skipping backend testing, testing only integrated states, and so on. How does all this affect quality? Now, people are the foundations for everything. We build products together with other people, and how well we communicate and collaborate, the ways of working, the system we work on, all that has direct impact on the quality we can achieve together. But let's paint this picture from the other side, because I've seen a lot of benefits from teams on their journey towards holistic testing and quality, or in general of making things a team thing. I've seen it produce inclusion and access, because in order for everyone to be able to test holistically, you need to get access to everything. Shared knowledge is also what you need. You need to share your skills so you can really build resilience, right? And then also deliver in a way faster way and more continuously. This also usually created team accountability. It created a lot more empathy and appreciation of what needs doing to achieve that outcome. The support increased heavily, just as the willingness to try things out differently and experiment and find different solutions. It increased also system understanding of the whole thing that we're building, but also on having a look, okay, when is done really done completely? It formed better relationships within the team, but also with other teams. Better quality outcome was produced. So overall, we had a stronger team. Because it is about the people in the end, we work together and we build things together with. So usually that's where quality can emerge or is hindered by. So we start from there. But talking about starts, let's talk about where the team is right now and what you can expect, what you need to consider. I heard a lot of people say, I don't have any power. I cannot influence. But you don't need to be in an official leadership or management position in order to have power or influence. In a matter of fact, we all do influence each other all the time, even if we're not aware of it. There's a lot of models out there on power and influence that I really recommend you to make yourself familiar with. These two that I'm presenting are the ones that helped me most so far. One is the concept of power bases by French and Raven, who provide a thinking tool of 6 different kinds of powers you can use and tap into. And the other one is impact over intention. I mean, I really appreciate if you have good intentions and you don't want to manipulate me into doing something I'd consider evil. But if you don't consider the impact of your actions that you can have on others or the system as a whole, then you might be surprised what that impact might be. So let's be mindful of the impact our actions might have. Time. Let's speak about time a bit. Does change come overnight? Unfortunately not. Now, it does really take quite some time and patience over and over again, and usually more than you might think. We're working with people after all, and changing our own behaviors and mindsets, well, that is quite a heavy effort. We're in for the long game. Most of the changes that I now see with my current team, well, we've been working on for a year on them, right? But now suddenly people start moving, which is great. So sowing the seeds is really worth it, no matter the outcome. We never know if they will grow or not, or how they will grow. But if we don't sow them, there's no chance. But be mindful not to run too fast with all the changes so that people might not be able to follow you. Change fatigue is a real thing, and it will turn around against you. It might not just be the right time yet to introduce a specific change. People might not be ready yet. Foundations might not yet exist, or too much other things are going on, right? But we can count on one thing, and that's setbacks. They are given, they will come, you can rely on them. In the best of times, we are really on a high, but there will be times where we struggle, where we're stressed out, and then often we fall back into old habits. We have to fight our way back, of course, to another high, but setbacks are a given. It's always like a fluctuating curve, and we can just hope that we fluctuate always with an upwards trend. Before you choose a tactic for a bigger change initiative, it really helps to observe, to see what's important for your contacts and where people are right now, because context really does matter and people do matter. You can, of course, try something that worked in a past team, but you cannot expect it to work in the same way. There's more than one right way. We have to see what works and what not, and then adapt, make your next steps. But in order to experiment with more options, it's really helpful to have more tools in your toolbox. What you can also do is to look for pain points and needs and concerns, fears and wishes of people. Gather that information as your input for making that first decision on what to focus on. You can start looking for patterns. Are people always mentioning the same things? Do you spot different symptoms, but actually they point to the same cause? Is there something systemic about it? All these collected observations can really help you to make a bigger decision, but it shouldn't stop you from trying small things out right away. But when you are opting for a bigger thing, please have a look what you pick. So focus here with impact in mind. You cannot do all the things at the same time. You just don't have the capacity and energy. So let's be clear what is the most impactful thing we can do right now and change right now. And then we can preserve our energy for exactly that, to focus. There will be other balls up in the air. Other people might catch them or they might drop, and that is okay. Or you might be asked to be pulled into other initiatives. But in the end, we only have so much energy. It is really limited. So let's be mindful of that and preserve it for whatever we deem most valuable right now. I've seen a lot of people also say, you know, I can't change my own situation. People don't make use of me. They never invite me in. They never involve me. I don't have any chance. It's always the others. And this is sort of like a victim position. It might be quite comfortable because you don't have to move out of there, right? You can always just state this fact and that's it. But the thing is, I cannot change other people. I can only change myself. And this is really hard to do, but I can only start with myself. I can invite others to change their behavior, but I cannot do that directly. So instead, let's change my own behavior. And for that, I do need courage. And I do need to take action. Dare to try something. Inaction doesn't help. Someone else will not fix it, or not in a way that you'd like to have it. So take action yourself. Doesn't have to be perfect. Doesn't have to be huge. Well, we need to make a move. Dare to make a decision. Dare to try. And we might not succeed. So also dare to try again and continue trying. Now that we know our goal and where we're starting from, let's see how we can get there. So I'm going to share a bunch of tactics to get closer. It's a choice selection, but I use them nearly every day in one way or another, and they also go often hand in hand. So here's a sneak peek of what's awaiting you. It's a selection of 12 tools I'm going to dive into. So let's start with the first one. People first. That's the most foundational one that I've encountered. Putting humans at the center and creating safe, trustful relationships. Without trust, I never got far. So let's show curiosity in the other one, what they do, learn what's working, asking genuine questions without judgment as much as possible, and learning and listening with intent to understand. And then we can also appreciate what's already working well for them, which is great, which is a great move or something that you've seen. And praise can really go a long way, directly with the people, also in front of the team, like in retros, but also in public, where also their managers can see it and also their peers. If you see why someone is praised and what the impact was on me, you can also get inspired to do the same on your own. So it really creates a positive reinforcement, and it is really powerful. Contributing hands-on is another way to build trust, especially if you are the new one on the team, to get your feet wet and hands dirty as soon as possible, and picking up part of the load can really go a long way. If other people join your team and they are new, it's a great way to have a conversation starter. You're working on something together, you share a topic, you can get to know each other. But also if nobody's new, but you just don't have that relationship yet, working on something together, showcasing that you can keep your commitments or you communicate well. If you cannot, you can really help each other out. And speaking of help, well, if you help people, they often help you back. It doesn't work always, but most of the times. So be there for people when they need someone. Also emotionally, can be little messages to check in or noticing if someone is not feeling well, offering a place to vent and rant. You're not alone either. You don't have to do everything on your own as well. So let's also ask for help actively whenever you need that, and not have it build up and pile up before you do so. If the team is not yet really working well, maybe asking one person directly can help better. But if they do help, show the gratitude for that again, and you can again appreciate what's working. Meet people where they are right now, where they actually are, not where we wish them to be, but we can only meet them there where they currently are. So let's not assume, let's learn where they are and where they're coming from, because usually people behave in a certain way due to good reasons. It's based on their past experiences, the beliefs they formed. So let's learn about that. Let's see where people really are. And that's valid in their experience, right? And that's sometimes really hard, but we need to accept it. If you can, try to speak their language. Look for the wording people are using and trying to meet them there, speak their language if you can, or try to learn that and see what people mean by certain words, or look for certain usages. So for example, in the team that I'm currently in, when I started, I realized one of the developers, he was always staying on a very high level of functionality when talking about a feature. So I took my chance and started asking questions about architecture and different aspects we would like to consider, like resilience or data consistency. And the developers suddenly saw, oh, wait, we can have that conversation. We can speak that language together. That is great. So we had way better conversations than about not only about the feature to build, but also about that helped create our relationship. Working where people work is another part here. This is where people will also see your work as well. Is your team heavily working with a tool like Jira? Let's meet them there and work there. I can add my testing notes for a specific feature directly there, maybe as a comment. If these are shown in dailies, it's easy to see those as well, and you can all work where you work. Or maybe people are communicating very heavily asynchronously via pull requests. Meet them there. Add a comment, maybe ask a question, whatever you wonder about. If you find an issue, maybe you can fix it right away and suggest a fix. Work where people work. And also accept that they can only go at their own pace. Not everybody's the same, that's great. And you might have early adopters in your team for specific changes. You might have late adopters. And sometimes it's the same person, maybe different topics, and that's fine too. Don't expect to have everybody make the same jump at the same time. We can only go at our own pace. Show, don't tell. Now that's a bit of a cheeky one on the meta level, given that this is a talk and I'm currently telling you a lot of things, right? But please bear with me, because for real, often people just don't know what I'm talking about. They might have never experienced it. So that's what I'm trying to do. Let people experience it. Talk is not action. So it's sometimes really hard to envision what something would really mean, right? What kind of effect would it have? What kind of benefit would I get from it? What's in it for me if we do that? I need to feel it, right? What it means. In my current team, this was the case for pairing. I was coming from situations where we paired a lot and worked a lot in a synchronous manner. And when I joined my new team in the first days, and talked about pairing a lot, I realized, no, people don't have any kind of mental model what that actually means. So I stopped talking about pairing and instead trying to create that situation. I called them after daily, where people are, right? Ask them to stay around, say like, hey, I have a question on a specific feature. I started sharing my screen, showed them around, we walked through, I asked my questions, we got answers, we got into a conversation. And as I had the system running, I started interacting with it, asking further questions and so on. So we basically ended up doing it, pairing together. Now, once people are ready to experience different things, we can encourage them to experiment and try even better ways of doing things together. Well, context does matter. What worked in past teams might not work here, but we can really try things out. And we can be clear about what experimentation means here. It should be low cost to try, and the outcome is not known yet. It might not work, and that's fine. We will always learn something. There's no real failure. So it's inherently safe to try things out if we frame them as experiments. And we also have to be sure not to impose the outcome because it's really unknown yet. So instead of just hoping, like wishful thinking for hoping that the right thing that you wanted to aim for comes out of it, look at the actual data and behavior. As much as I wish for, if the team doesn't pick something up yet, we haven't tried the right thing yet. And that is okay too. Making sharing the default and sharing everything, this is really part of the holistic part of testing and quality done by everybody. So we need to start with sharing access to knowledge, permission to tools, invites to meetings and communication channels, which naturally will then reduce gatekeeping and increase transparency and increase trust. In my current team, a very small thing that for us to do really heavily increased the access. And that was just having all team related calls in a shared team calendar and with an explicit invite. Anybody who sees it, you can always join. It's up to you to make that decision, not up to us. Really did wonders, a whole game changer. Now that you have access, you can also share knowledge, right? They're collaborating together on the same thing in team channels, writing how-to documents or whatnot, but we can all learn from each other and we can live that message as well. And now that we have shared access and knowledge, we can share the load. Really share your weight of the load as well. Make it normal to do so that everybody can be part of that. Like everybody can look at production, everybody can care for releases, everybody can care for requests from outside the team and so on, because also glue work is part of the load, right? Glue work is usually what holds the team together. All the little things that are often not officially named, it's often also underrated and undervalued, but without that, the team falls apart. So for sharing glue work, you need to first make it visible. Not everybody's aware of that. But if it's visible and if you can share it, you can also change the narrative of it not being valued, but instead really highly appreciated. So it can really work in the benefit of the whole team. Sharing pain is another aspect here, because if it hurts, do it more often. If you have to do it in the first place, that is. But we're not alone in this. So spreading pain across the team doesn't really sound nice, right? Why have everybody suffer? But it does really create empathy and it shares knowledge again. And it also creates an incentive for everybody to find a better solution together and reduce that friction. For the current team I'm on, that's on releasing. It's still a pain, but it got better with every time we did it together. And as we do things together, let's also share the credit that we get for it. There's no rock stars on the team. It's really about the team doing all these things together, and that can reinforce everything again as well. You know, the best performing teams, they're not just working with each other, they're working for each other. There's usually a system already in place. There are practices in place, energies in place. We can work with what we already meet and build on that. We are always working in an established system, and systems are there to uphold themselves. The purpose of a system is to do what it does. So it's really hard to change it or replace it if you're not doing this very intentionally. People usually have good reasons of why they do what they do, right? They behave in certain ways, and often it's driven by the system they're working in. So think about the current system you are working in. What are the people rewarded for? Where's the incentive given? What are people measured by? And then you can think about a system that would, lead people into different ways naturally. What would it make easy for them to do the more desirable thing? Piggybacking on existing practices is another thing we can do. If there's a practice that already works well for the team, why not jump on it and build on it? In my current team, rotations were really working very well. For example, for recurring team meetings, we always had a rotation already in place so that everybody shares the load for those kind of calls. So how about if we want to introduce something new, to also introduce a rotation, because that system is already working. For example, having someone dedicated every week to look at incoming requests or incoming bug reports, investigating what's going on. So we now have an issue investigator of the week, a weekly rotation, everybody shares the load. And we can piggyback on that as well, because that was successful. So what about observing production? We want to do that daily and really be always knowing the current state. Why not combine that and use that rotation that's already in place? Same with updating dependencies and so on. Building on intrinsic motivation is another thing we can do, because people usually have personal goals and wishes and motivations. Find out what is mattering for them, the growth topics, or what drives them. Like I had someone who's really wanting to feel needed and appreciated and thankful. It's quite a human thing, right? We can really build on that as well. Or with now my team right now having the motivation intrinsically to run a specific service locally that I already tried to get them run for a whole year. Now's the right time, because now the motivation is there. We can build on that, and then we can get it working. Let's optimize for flow and fast throughput, but that requires also fast feedback. But in the end, this is also what contributes directly to the team's success and also the success perception from the outside. So as soon as people realize the benefit, they will have that incentive. But first of all, let's discover ways of how we can collaborate in a faster manner. What can you do to speed up feedback? My current team started out working very asynchronously, right? Everybody doing their thing, very isolated. So I met them where they are, also started to work very asynchronously, but trying to really go always faster, always provide that feedback faster. I started working on things that were that had the most progress already, giving feedback, but then always working from right to left, basically, to get in a situation that we're working on the same thing at the same time, even if it's in an asynchronous manner, to get that fast feedback going. And at some point, one of my developers figured, because I was also having them experience the benefit of pairing, right? It happened at the same time. And at some point, one of the developers turned to me and was like, wait, if I ask her to pair with me, the feedback would be even faster, and I can get this done without waiting for feedback again for too long and picking something else up. Let's start pairing. Hence, big win for flow and also collaboration. The other part here is stop starting, start finishing. This is a mindset shift for the whole team, realizing even that all the things that we did start together, and becoming aware of that and becoming aware of the underlying problem if we do so. So if we have 5 developers and everybody's working on 3 topics at the same time, we already have 15 topics, work in progress, and so on, right? So I often see it first if we start too many topics, because I'm usually involved in all of them. So context switches get really high. People are waiting for each other. You queue up, you start another thing. But instead, let's stop starting, but start finishing. And rather help others finish their things first before you pick up anything new. or maybe not even pick up anything new. If you're not yet ready to start helping out, just not pick up anything new. Maybe use that time for learning, for everything, which is again a mindset change to allow ourselves to do that. Sometimes we really have to slow down very deliberately to go fast. And the best incarnation of that I've experienced so far is to ensemble. The whole team working on the same thing, same time, same place, same computer. We just recently had that situation again, where we also ended up sort of in a traffic jam, having way too many topics started at the same time, and then everybody was blocking each other, nothing got through. So we called an ensemble and we deliberately decided to go slow. Everybody working on one bit all together, have it completely finished, get it done, next bit, and continued step by step until we resolved the whole situation. Invaluable. Now, there's only so much change a team or a person can digest at a time, right? Always a bit better every day is a great tool to help us think how we can break things down, even tinier, that we can have things better every day. Because every day, yes, it is a high goal to reach. For that, we have to be okay with good enough. Good enough is just that, good enough. So you require a lot of pragmatism to just strive for better than we left it and not jumping to perfect. Getting things done in always better ways, iteratively, incrementally, just how we build software. Good enough is a lot earlier usually than we might think it is, but it can already be presented and get feedback on and also inspire people. So if we take really a lot of tiny steps and even some more, also with change and improve as we go, this can really accumulate together in a big change of the time. You might not see it in the moment, but if you look back, you will see that all those actions really help move you forward. Anything that works better than yesterday helps. It could be as little as correcting a team constellation on a wiki page, updating onboarding material, submitting a pull request to improve a README of a repo, or write a command line helper script, or a postman collection, or whatever it is. And it could even be broken down even tinier. They accumulate. Now, I focused a lot on action here, right? Over talking. But this tactic here is all about words. Changing the narrative can do wonders. Presenting a different worldview opens up for a different perception. One thing we can do is to reframe the situation we find ourselves in. I've seen so many people who just never had the chance to get in touch with certain tooling or knowledge and just never had that experience. So whenever I see those situations, I could, of course, say like, oh, you don't know that? How could you not know that everybody knows that? And this is so simple and so easy, and come at them in a condescending way. But I could also reframe that situation as a learning opportunity for each other. And that can do wonders, because suddenly it opens up all the possibilities and reinforces that narrative of we can all learn from each other. Or maybe I encounter a team who keeps moaning about their situation, they cannot do anything to change. How about we change that narrative and talk about all the things that we have control over and reframe the situation you're in? People being stuck in misconceptions about certain roles or always complaining about others, they might miss a lot of contacts. So let's use all that to reframe the situation. We can also tell a new reality into existence. We keep talking about something until it becomes reality, like a vision you have for your team. Not everything will stick, and that's okay, but if we're consistent with that narrative within the team and also outside, you can really tell it into existence. You can tell lots of people at different times, you can really repeat yourself, and it can stick. With my current team, this is also what happened. When I started, the team didn't have the best reputation in the company, quite the opposite. So I've been constantly trying to see where this is coming from, but also trying to change that narrative. Because what I experienced in the team was different. So whenever I talked about the team with others, I shared our context we're in, but also all the good stuff that I've observed, all the change that happened, how helpful people were, everything that I've observed, talking about heavily outside. I did the same within my team as well. So whenever we then found ourselves in cross-team collaboration situations, like on working together on bigger epics, or finding ourselves being part of incident resolutions, helping out, we could actually show up as that team that I was talking about and presenting this changed reality also to the teams outside, and it actually changed their perception as well. So we talked it and told it into existence. Let's talk about resilience. It is a great feeling when you're needed, right? Until you're needed for everything, all the time. Now, it might be great to, it might add to your ego, but it doesn't help you or your team at all. And it's not resilient for the whole system either. I shouldn't be a bottleneck. Sometimes I have to start as one, but I shouldn't end up there, because it will hurt the team, because they will need to rely on me. And I also cannot try new things out, contribute in new ways, learn and grow, because I'm the bottleneck. So let's instead build resilience in. For that, focus on enabling. This is something that really changed in my last years of working, focusing on enabling all the others. And I've learned this is really not stopping me from contributing hands-on on the team. It instead empowers me to contribute in way more ways. So investing in upskilling people continuously is really, really worth it and can really pay off. You can work together, like, for example, pairing is one of my go-to options to enable other people. Ensembling would be the next, but you can also hand over specific tasks and delegate them completely. Maybe have a debrief in the end. That can really help. You can have guidelines and documentations to enable others. And sometimes the way to go is to completely refrain from doing things on your own. It's one of the toughest moves that I've made in my career, but it was also the most rewarding one. So whenever I saw there's an activity that currently only I am doing, but others should be able as well, I decided not to do it on my own at all, which means I gave also myself the permission to not do this on my own and take the time that we have together for doing it, and instead use that time that I couldn't pair with anybody to work on other things that also needed doing, where I just don't need to enable somebody. Now, in the end, let's go away, test it out. You can go on vacation, of course, so you're not there, and you should be able to go on vacation without stress. Join a conference or help another team, or dive into some other topic. Could be anything, but step away, come back, see what happened, adapt, see what's still needed, and then you can go away again to test it out. And repeat until everybody can keep things running. That is also something I've seen with my current team. In the beginning, I've been away just for 2 days, and one of my fellow developers took over, tried to do everything on his own, and it worked, but it was quite stressful. So next time, I've been away for a week. He tried to share it with more people, and they really, really struggled to keep things up. They came back, we adapted again. I've been away for more than 2 weeks, and people really felt upfront already, oh, we got this. So I came back and I could see, yes, they really got this. It was so easy to come back and just, come back in a relaxed state and then just pick things up wherever they are, because people kept it going. So building resilience in is really a nice and helpful principle that we're now using in all kinds of situations as well. Conflict. Now, ignoring conflict really doesn't help. I've tried, it only festers. It just doesn't help. And avoiding it doesn't help either. It's also an indicator that things are not as safe as they could be right now. So let's instead put the fish on the table before it rots. Bring up the little things right away, otherwise they build up. And wouldn't you wish for someone else to do the same with you and for you too? Yeah, it is hard, and it never gets easier for me, but it's really worth it. Imagine the opposite. If you don't do that, conflict can really build up for over 2 years or even more, I've been in such a situation. It was the saddest story of my career. So let's instead speak up and address those observations as they arise. If you have feedback to give, offer it to someone, see if they're ready for it, and then you can cater to their needs to also get this message across. And interestingly, when talking about testing quality, it often brought up underlying conflicts in the team anyway, and we need to solve them first in order to be able to do anything else. So let's not assume, let's ask. Most often we're missing context, we're lacking information, we're not knowing where people are coming from, and our interpretations of different situations might differ, and they can both be valid at the same time. Your feelings and theirs, your observations and theirs. There's an and in here. What helps me is to understand the situation better first and take time to think and reflect. For me, that includes writing things down, because that's what I learned is it really helps my thinking, but whatever works for you, to take the time to understand. Now, people are different, and that's great. So we also have different needs, and we should make space for everybody. Let's cater to those different needs. Are you a morning or an evening person? Do you think in talking, or do you need silence to think? Do you care for a child and need to fetch them from school on time? Maybe you have a disability we can accommodate for. Stay curious, find ways that work for everyone. Because we want to hear all voices, whatever the topic. Otherwise, we're missing out. So let's become aware who is currently loud and present all the time, maybe dominating conversations, and who isn't, who's not showing up, who's not being heard, who does not speak. Invite people to share if they have something intentionally. It's not about forcing them, right? It's about creating that space for them. And that includes also, for me, to shut up and create that space. We want to opt for joint decisions because they have the best chance to get really, really lived. Of course, we can take decisions on our own, and sometimes we have to, but we can't decide everything ourselves for everybody, right? Otherwise, it might just, stick with us and it's not getting lived at all. Let's instead have everybody involved and give them a chance to have their say. This is often where people tell me like, oh no, this takes too much time and it's not worth it. We need to go faster. But actually, it doesn't have to be slow at all. This can be time boxed. This can be very quick as well. And then you have a chance to find out better solutions than you can even imagine. Optimism and hope for a great future goes a long way. It can be hard to uphold that optimism if you see so many things going wrong and not being okay. That should be better. But radiating that hope that things can change and become better, it really does wonders. So let's start with radiating that confidence that we together can figure things out. Confidence, well, it really helps, right? And growing confidence is easier said than done. We know that. But remember, your teammates need to build up confidence as well. You're not alone in this. Instilling confidence that we can figure this out together and no one is alone and no one has it figured out already or has to figure it out on their own. This goes a long way. Everybody fears something, and that's okay. And then we can also celebrate all the things together, no matter how small or big. Anything that I see moving toward a better direction, I'm going to call it out. I'm going to celebrate it out. And I do that publicly a lot as well. You might see me doing that and think, oh, things are so great and everything's nice and shiny. I can tell you there's a lot of failure as well that I might not share about all the time, but I do definitely highlight that I celebrate every win because it is celebrate worthy. This is what really gives me a lot of energy. So it does help me also in hindsight if I see sort of my track record of all the things where people moved, like, oh, this person suddenly spoke up in a meeting, or this person now asked me to pass the first time they did that, or I've served someone else doing something great. I have a nice record to go back in hindsight and see how far we progressed actually as a team. And it also showcases this with your team, because they might also not realize what can be appreciated already, and learn how to celebrate is a big step on that journey. So all the negative stuff shouldn't bring you down. Let's focus on what's working and what can make you all stronger. The bad will fade away. Let's intentionally look for the good and highlight this. And that was the 12th tactic, right? So here it is again, whole toolbox, all the tactics together as of now. Those worked for me. And I hope in the next years to come, I'm going to fill them with even more on my own journey. But this is my status quo. You might have noticed something. All those tools aren't like, how are they related to testing and quality? Aren't they just related to team culture in general? And yes, I presented the tools to transform a team. So I've been talking about culture all the time because I feel it's the foundation for everything. For good things to happen, for quality to have a chance to emerge. These are tactics to prepare a team for better communication and collaboration, so they're ready to pick up holistic testing and quality. For people to thrive, for better product quality to emerge. All this have proven to be foundation for everything else. The biggest factor I've seen repeatedly. The holistic part is really the main point here. Transform a team to do all the things together in a healthy way. We're getting close to the end of this talk, and I've shared a lot of stuff that worked for me. But what about you now? What's the next step to take? Let's wrap this up with a call to action. Get started. You have what is needed to start. The rest you will figure out on your way anyway. So just get started with that first step and more will follow. Take action to help your team on their journey. Take things into your own hand. Learn as you go. But we will never learn if we don't take that first step. Remember, we will have setbacks. We will fall back to old behaviors and old habits. And that's fine, but keep at it and keep going. The tactics and tools I presented, they're worth trying and gathering your own experience with. These are things that work for me, but try them out yourself. And on your journey, you will find new things as well, and you can build your own toolbox of approaches and tactics. They might not work, but again, if you also share them and share them with others, you might inspire a lot more people again in return. Now, people working in testing and quality are usually not alone on this journey. I've seen it with so many other dedicated roles as well. Basically, whenever you have one person in a team taking care of something, like an engineering manager or a product owner, architects, security experts, also developers, because sometimes you only have one dedicated backend developer in the team, or maybe a DevOps engineer, or just one front-end person. So look around you. There might be already allies for your endeavor in your team. So why not join forces and go together? Because together we can move the world step by step towards holistic testing and quality, and also towards any other goal. This is my experience, and I hope it inspired you for your own journey, especially to take that next step. In case you have any questions, find me around. I'm here. Just write me a direct message on a social media tool of your choice. Wherever you are, my handle is always the same. And you can find also those links on my website. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your attention and wish you a great rest of the day.